happy.
Yes.
You may begin.
I may begin. Okay. Can you hear? Okay, I can hear a little bit. Can you hear? Okay, I just need to be real close. I have a lady that comes around and looks after me, and she said, would you please write in, and keep a record of the things that you do and where you go and, stuff like that. I would like to have it. And I said, okay, but I didn't do it. And I saw this book, and I said, oh, she wants me to do that. I've been here 8 months. I said, I should put something in the book. Oh, didn't want to do it. Got the book, opened it up, and just about burst into tears. It's a book written by my mother of all the Psalms. And she even put a dedication in it to my good friend Zula Larson, who inspired the creation of this book by giving me an empty book to fill. She put they're all the Psalms, all 150 Psalms are in this book, and she has put little illustrations there.
Beautiful.
Every page, I should sew it that way, that way. And
that is marvelous.
she is my mother is the kind of person who knows every type of grass, every type of flower, wildflower, doesn't matter. She knows their names and what they're good for, and she knows every tree, and she can identify it. Sometimes it's just by looking at the shape of the tree, and sometimes just by the leaf. So this book is full. This book is full of, look at that, wow, what people would call weeds. But she didn't write the names of the weeds down, so I don't know what they are. But page after page. Oh, and she did put in a few animals. Most of them were birds. See, you can tell by looking at the leaves what they were.
Right out of high school in 1959, I went and was a firefighter in rural part of Idaho. My uncle Everett in Moscow, Idaho, got me the job. When I say rural, it was very rural. We were out in the boondocks. We could hear cougars scream at night, and the bears in the trash area. Very remote. Nearest town was Beauville. 2 years later, 1961, I was a firefighter with the Department of Interior Bureau of Land Management in the White Mountains of Arizona in the eastern part of the state. And we did a lot of firefighting even on an Indian reservation. That was an experience. Incidentally, years later after that, many years later, I went back to that area. It was completely vacant. All the buildings were gone except for the outhouse up on the hill. So I had to go up and use the outhouse for the final time. I was a civil servant and employee for 38 years. Doesn't matter which party's in the White House, it's irrelevant. It's very political, top to bottom and bottom to top. And you have to know how to play the game if you're a federal employee. And I also did some computer work. But my favorite job was over on Merritt Island, 1964, 60 years ago, when I worked on a survey with a guy named Jim Scott, who hired me, came down. We hired 2 local guys who are also named Jim.
I'm an RN, and I worked many years in the emergency room. And when I left the emergency room, we moved to West Palm Beach, and I went to work for the Palm Beach County Health Unit. And I started out in Belglade and Pahokee, and I worked several years out there. And then they needed a healthcare risk manager because we had 18 satellite units, and they sent me 16 months to Fort Lauderdale, and I became their first healthcare risk manager. And when I moved here from Gainesville, Florida, and after moving here, I found out that Jim, that lives on the second floor, he lived right down the street from us in Manassas, Virginia. And then I talked to Robbie, and she and I are from the same area in Mississippi, and we had the same friends, and we found out that our parents are buried in the same cemetery.
Yeah,
Small world.
small world, and we were born in the same hospital in Jackson, only 2 years apart. I'm older, but yes, and she knew my grandfather.
Wow.
Your own grandfather.
That is something else. That's so neat. Did you want to share anything else, Lee?
No, I just appreciate everything here.
Oh, we love you.
You all remember Chuck Manning?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Uh-huh.
He and I were born in the same hospital in Montclair, New Jersey. When I found out, I was greatly surprised. I said, "Why didn't you wave to me or something in the hospital?" Of course, we were babies. I don't, looking at the requirement for today, I don't think I had enough time for the whole week to tell about all my travels. Suffice it to say, I had a military life and a civilian life. My military life started at my graduation from West Point, and I got an MOS. Remember MOS, Military Occupational Specialty, was telecommunications engineer, and that sort of dictated where I went the rest of my time in the service. Would you believe I had to write this stuff down because I can't remember all of it. In my service life, I was in Korea, Kwajalein, Vietnam, Japan, Eritrea, which is next to Ethiopia, and Panama. During that time, promotions were very slow as they were in the Army, but I ended up retiring after 28 years of service as a full colonel. I was lucky to jump right into the civilian way of doing business, which took me quite a while to get used to. A little different from military. You know, in the military, you say do it, and you have to do it. You salute and do it. You know, no questions about it. I was a program manager immediately for NASA in the NASA Goddard off the Beltway in Washington. Program manager for components, or we were manufacturing based on specs that they were sending down. We were making them, actually making them for parts for the space shuttle. It was very interesting, a wonderful introduction to NASA, which I hadn't had the privilege before. Also, while I lived in Maryland, I was interested in the theater. They have a wonderful children's theater here, and the production was Sound of Music. And I was too old at the time to fit in any of the roles. So, but one, the butler, if you remember that story, the butler was Hans. He was a Nazi in heart. And my only role was when the man and the woman were married, and they came in, they had a suitcase with them, and they brought that in the middle of the stage, and I was supposed to, as a butler, I was supposed to walk out and pick up the suitcases and say, "They're home." That was the only thing I said in the play. Big role, huh? So I always said, I wrote a book, not as poignant as yours, about my military services. I was in 34 houses. This is my 34th house today. And I always said the Army was very good to us.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing your story.
Don't know what to say because I think most everybody knows everything about me anyway. But I think so. But I can tell you that I grew up in Wisconsin, and I enjoyed that experience, especially after I moved away. just the closeness of the people and the friendliness. And I moved to Florida later on, and just would go back for visits. Most of my life I've done volunteer work. I never really did work for a living. I worked when in my first marriage. He was in still grad school, and so I helped out with that. And then I started having babies, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity with my children and raising my second husband's children as well. And I would never think of doing it any other way than what we did. It was an enjoyable experience, but boy, I'm telling you, it was an experience with 5 boys. But I like to do a lot of volunteer work, and I found my favorite thing, I think, when I was in high school, acting. I loved to, even starting in high school and in college, and then doing some community theater. So that might be something that you don't know about me. That's a passion. And so when we get in that trivia stuff, that's how come I know some of the answers about movies and theater, because I truly enjoyed it. That was my passion in life, but I knew I was never going to follow that because, oh my God, my parents were like, oh my God, no. Oh my God, that's so sinful coming from Wisconsin. But there was other ways to pursue it, and thank heavens for that. That was very enjoyable. And I'm love living here. There's such wonderful people, staff. Everything is great about this place, and we have lots of opportunities now to still volunteer with the ambassadors and residence council and all the things on that kind of level. So that's probably what I would say is my favorite thing here is the volunteering. I do love the games and such, but probably my passion is more for volunteerism because I've done it my whole life. And that's about it. Not much else to say.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening.
That's a full bucket.
The 7th state I've lived in. I married a man who transferred with his job, so this is my 7th state to live in, so.
Thank you for your service.
Well, like everybody else, I'm also an RN. I spent many years in school, like 7 college years. So I had different titles. I've traveled all over the United States. My husband was a flight test engineer for Boeing, and then he joined the Coast Guard, so he is Air Sea Rescue. So we moved a lot. Alaska, Guam, Puerto Rico. Each island got a little larger, and we raised 3 children who are successful. And after 40 years, I finally retired, and I'm having a great time right here. I moved into IRCC and had some bumps along the road with medical, but my husband had more than I did, so we were survivors. That's it. And we also took in students from all over the world. In fact, Ethiopia, Aguni and Haile, Caleb from Palau, we'd one from Nepal, Sambaden, and we had students from inside the U.S. too, in situations where the family couldn't keep them anymore, so we said we'd take them. And we helped get a lot of them through. One became the president of the Republic of Palau, and they all did well. One's in the UN, and we've kept in touch with all of them.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I went to
So we have 3 nurses right here. Lee, wave to us. Nancy, wave to us. Mona, and dun dun dun.
another one over here.
Nurse number 4,
I
Dot.
was an office nurse for internal medicine for 35 years. I retired when I was 75, and that's it.
Wow.
Before that, I was a wife and mother.
Beautiful, and thank you for your service. Sir Don.
Yes.
Were you a nurse?
No, I was not a nurse.
But you are here. You help everybody
I'm
here.
just about capable of putting a Band-Aid on it. Now, I've had a boring life. I was a mechanic, I was a machinist, and then I tell everybody I painted fire hydrants. I worked for a water company, and that's where I retired from. I was there, and all I did, I worked my way up through the ranks until I had my own crew, and we went out and did all the large accounts for hospitals and like Pratt & Whitney and Hamilton Standard, and made sure they all had water. And that's it, and here I am.
Not just that's it. You've done a lot, and
Military
even,
background.
That's right. You have a military background.
You never told
Tell
us.
us about that,
It's
because we're
about-
proud of you.
Well, yeah, I was a combat engineer,
In
Vietnam,
Vietnam.
and after I came home, I had 8 months left, and they signed me to a transportation company because they didn't have any slots for us guys. And that's all there was to it, and then I was out of the service and into civilian life again.
Well, we honor you, we appreciate you, and we thank you for your service.
Thank
He
you.
got to go to the,
He
he went to Washington for the
Oh, honor flight. Yeah.
honor flight.
That's
In
right.
June. Yeah, that was a wonderful thing.
And you're wonderful here.
Thank you.
We love you.
And Don shot.
Of course, I think most of you know I grew up on a farm, and my husband was at another farm connected. Both our fathers raised the beef cattle, and we went to the same high school, and had then when we went to college, we married before really we got started. We both had a year of college, and then our parents were going to separate us because they didn't think it was a great idea for us to be in the same town in Mississippi, and they were in Miami now. And so we said, okay, we'll just get married. And so we did. I was 18, he was 19, and then we finished school together. And then we went to California. He was in the aerospace industry, and his major was math and physics, and mine was business. Long ago and far away, I got an MBA, but I couldn't get a job that I wanted in the business, so I taught for a couple of years because we needed the money. Then we moved to different towns. We did a year of postgraduate work at LSU. Then he moved to Dallas and a job at Texas Instruments, and we started our family. And so I was mom for 15 years. And then when my youngest child got her learner's license, we got her a car, and I went to work at Harris and enjoyed that immensely because that's what I'd always wanted to do. I was a planner, and that just meant that I needed to know about the floor space, how many types of engineers we would need for a program, how much that would cost, that sort of thing. But I really enjoyed that. And during the years I was home, I was the champion volunteer in Melbourne County. I love that too.
We love our volunteers. Aww. Thank you for your service and volunteering.
I had a good time.
I did a lot of different jobs with the Department of the Army, but then I got tired of playing the games, and when I was eligible to retire, that's what I did. So I retired in 2005, and I never looked back.
Occupation, I've always been the boss, and I've done that my whole life,
Yes.
but I've also worked my ass off.
You sure did. You sure did. And what did you do?
Whatever came up.
Oh, yeah, I did get a, what do you call it, barbershop. And this was in Cocoa.
Wonderful.
And then I went from Cocoa to the Florida,
University of Florida?
yeah, University of Florida.
Gainesville.
And then I worked there until I got my things where I could be.
An attorney.
An attorney.
The United Nations for 9 years. Then the war broke out in Jerusalem, in Israel, and I wanted to go. And I got approved by all the delegates, which were about 8 countries. It had to be approved by the delegates, and I got approved to go with them. But at the last minute, I got rejected because the administrative officer going on the trip, on the group to Israel, found out that I was an American. And he said, we don't want any Americans on the trip. So they canceled me from going to Jerusalem. So I had a hot head at that time, and I resigned.
Oh.
And then I went into the insurance business and ran my own company for 100
Very nice.
years.
Now, what branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Adjutant General's office, but I was only
Army?
I was only a corporal.
In the Army?
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
Adjutant General's office.
Okay. Thank you for your service.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing that. Hi, Dot. Tell us about your babysitting experience.
God bless us. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. Back then they only paid $1 for the whole day. A
Wow.
whole day of babysitting these 3 boys
3 boys for $1?
for $1
Oh.
from morning till night.
Oh, you deserve back pay.
That's all we made was $1 a night.
Wow. You deserve more for 3 boys.
It's $1 for no matter who you got.
Wow.
I never made more than $1.
That's amazing.
Now, this week, I got a thing like Kathy was talking about, looking for a home for a family who had 6 children in so many years, and they want somebody to take them in and foster parent, and they sent it to me, and look how old I am, and I said, really? You want me to help with these children?
Well, you have so much experience.
So they sent me the form, everything. And finally I just wrote a note on the back, didn't fill anything out, and said, at my age, and I'm in assisted living, I don't think I should qualify to take in any kids.
You could do it. We have faith in you.
Yeah, you want them here? I'll tell them, send them all here.
Is sort of about babysitting. In the grade school where I lived up in Maryland, they had some kind of a special powwow. They had it all. The teachers were required to attend, so they needed substitute teachers for the grade school, and they scoured the territory and were scraping the bottom of the barrel, and they came across me. They said, would you be interested in sitting for the students while the teachers are having their powwow? I said, oh, that sounds interesting. So I signed up for it. I got to kindergarten. Big mistake. The kids were tackling me all day long. About 12 o'clock, I said to myself, when the hell are these kids get a rest? I need the rest. Anyway, I accidentally left my jacket on the back of one of the chairs, and I went back the next morning, and the regular secretaries were still in their position behind their desks at the front door. And I said, I came back to get my jacket that I left. They said, hey, we got an opening today for you. You want that? I said, let me out of here.
Thank you for listening to our quick tales. We really had a great time this morning. I myself certainly enjoyed all these stories that everybody shared with us. And I hope you out there will enjoy everything that you've learned today from us. And next time, please come and join us. Thank you. Bye-bye.